Hello guys, welcome back to our anime moment. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of Renegade Immortal episode number 168 based on novel. So let's start. The old man had a sad expression as he held the celestial capture net. He decided to not run anymore and stood still. He knew very well that he was an empty mid-stage ascendant cultivator. It would be far too difficult for him to escape from Wang Lin, who had his own Dao and had reached the ascendant on his own. It was only a matter of time before he was caught. So he decided to risk it this time. If this celestial capture net's mood was good, it would trap Wang Lin for 3 days. With a head start of 3 days, if he wanted to run, Wang Lin wouldn't be able to catch him no matter what. If he decided not to run and captured Wang Lin, then he might be able to use some drugs refine Wang Lin into a real low-quality celestial guardian like what was recorded in the Jade. Thinking about the power of low-quality celestial guardians that was recorded in the Jade, the short old man's heart was moved. The celestial guardians he refined had all been defective and simply didn't meet the requirements recorded on the mysterious Jade. The Jade stated that the chance of refining celestial guardians from soul transformation cultivators was very slim. If it was an ascendant cultivator, the success rate would increase a bit, but it was still very low. Only peak late-stage ascendant cultivators could make the success rate reach 1 in every 10,000. Of course, there were special cases. Those who had their own Dao could also reach the 1 in 10,000 chance. The old man held the celestial capture net with this in mind. In just a few breaths of time, Wang Lin appeared from the void in front of the old man. Almost at the moment Wang Lin appeared, the old man shouted and threw the celestial capture net. The net suddenly expanded indefinitely, becoming the sky and earth. Wang Lin had already noticed the old man's net with his divine sense. Considering how cautious Wang Lin was, he secretly analyzed that this treasure was not simple. After the old man took out this treasure, he even stopped running. This showed how confident the old man was in the power of this treasure. Although Wang Lin didn't know why the old man hadn't taken out the treasure earlier, his vigilance increased. The moment he appeared, he prepared countless teleportation spells under his feet. With just a thought, he could penetrate anything and force his way out of here. The celestial capture net fused with the world. There was a ray of green light from the sky and at the same time a ray of green light came from the earth. The two rays of green light suddenly charged out and closed in on each other. Trap him! Trap him! Trap him! The short old man seemed to have gone mad as he stared at the green light. He went from muttering to himself to a frantic roar. Trap him! It must trap him! The old man's face was flushed, his fists were clenched, and the veins on his face were swelled up. Wang Lin let out a cold snort. This green light was simply too strange, he couldn't even penetrate it with his divine sense. With how cautious Wang Lin was, he immediately began to activate the greater teleportation spell to escape this green light. However, just at this moment, the green light suddenly sped up and began to contract at an unimaginable speed. It was just that. The target it was going for wasn't Wang Lin, but the almost crazy short old man. The old man's face was extremely pale. He quickly retreated and repeatedly muttered, "Don't tie me up. Don't tie me up. Don't tie me up. I got all of you out of there, you can't tie me up. You can't tie me up. Ah. I'm begging you, celestial capture net, leave me a path of survival." While Wang Lin was startled, the green light flashed and surrounded the old man. The old man's body was covered in flames as he attempted to escape, but as soon as the flames appeared, they immediately dissipated. The old man revealed a sad expression and shouted, "You ungrateful celestial capture net. You only tie me up and never tie up the enemy." A golden light burst forth from the old man but immediately disappeared. "Your original owner must be dead because of you." The bitterness in the old man's heart couldn't even be expressed by words anymore. He kept activating spells, but even after he activated more than 10 different escape spells, all of them failed. He could only watch the green light completely surround him. The green light disappeared and turned into the slightly glowing celestial capture net. The short old man was completely tied up to the point where he couldn't even move his finger. Then he was delivered to Wang Lin. Wang Lin had battled countless enemies in his life, but this was the first time in more than 700 years that he had seen his enemy trapped by their own treasure and delivered right to him. Wang Lin believed that even if 7,000 years were to pass, it would be very difficult to encounter a similar scene. Even with Wang Lin's mental strength, he couldn't help but become startled after seeing this. This clearly showed just how surprised he was. Wang Lin didn't know whether to laugh or cry, but at the same time, his dread for the celestial capture net instantly reached an incredible degree. He personally saw the old man use many escape spells, and all of them failed under the power of the celestial capture net. The old man that was tied up by the celestial capture net and delivered to Wang Lin felt wronged as he looked at Wang Lin, and he angrily shouted, "Never seen someone who delivers themselves. This old man's treasure failed, so what?" Even with Wang Lin's temperament, he couldn't help but smile after hearing this. This kind of smile was extremely rare for Wang Lin. The short old man let out a snort. At this moment, he stopped caring. His timid temperament had been endlessly repressed. He thought that he was the most wronged cultivator in the cultivation world. He clearly had a lucky encounter that would make anyone envious, but in the end, he was ruined by the treasures he obtained during that lucky encounter. Humph, this old man was unlucky this time. If you want to kill me and what not, just do it. Although the old man said this, he couldn't help but become nervous. Wang Lin withdrew his smile and returned to his original indifference. Then he grabbed the old man and disappeared. Back at the castle, most of the cultivators took the chance to escape when Wang Lin chased after the old man. Without the celestial seeds, they immediately regained their freedom. However, there were some that didn't leave. Sun Ruonan was one of them. She was staring at the sky with a complex expression in her eyes. No one knew what she was thinking about. Wang Lin's body appeared from the void and coldly looked at the remaining people. There were only a few people remaining. When they saw Wang Lin, they all respectfully clasped their hands at Wang Lin and constantly thanked him. All except Sun Ruonan, who acted like she didn't see Wang Lin at all and continued to stare at the sky in a daze. Wang Lin clasped his hands at the leaving cultivators as a gesture, and then his left hand reached out. He grabbed Sun Ruonan and flew off into the distance. The remaining cultivators waited for Wang Lin to give their thanks. After seeing Wang Lin leave, they felt like the last several years were all a dream. They said their goodbyes and then scattered. "Let me go. What right do you have to capture me?" After Sun Ruonan was caught by Wang Lin, she immediately became sober and began to struggle. "Shut up." Wang Lin's voice landed on Sun Ruonan's body like a cold wind, and it immediately made her quiet. However, she soon sneered. "I know why you want to capture me. You want to use me as your cultivation furnace? Fine, do what you want to me, but just let me go after." As Wang Lin flew, he turned around and looked toward the woman. His eyes were filled with ruthlessness and he looked at her as if he was looking at a corpse. He slowly said, "You don't have the qualifications to become my cultivation furnace." Wang Lin's speed was very fast. With a single step, he had already moved several tens of thousands of kilometers away. Sun Yunshan was anxiously standing there with more than 10 cultivators collapsed on the ground near him. He was feeling very disturbed when his eyes narrowed and a ray of light came from the distance and turned into Wang Lin. Wang Lin was holding a male and a female in his hands. Sun Yunshan's gaze first fell on the familiar female figure. "Ruonan." Sun Yunshan's eyes were filled with joy, but it was soon replaced with a complex expression. He moved his gaze away from her and this time looked at Wang Lin's right hand. "Ancestor." Even though Sun Yunshan was mentally prepared, he was still startled after seeing this. Wang Lin landed and waved his left hand. Sun Ruonan was thrown toward Sun Yunshan. Then his left hand reached toward the void and the Chilean beast rushed over. The moment the beast appeared, all of the green lines on the cultivator on the ground and Sun Yunshan began to tremble. Then they turned into dots and were devoured by the Chilean. This beast seemed to be very happy. It let out a roar before turning into a soul fragment and being retrieved by Wang Lin. "Brother Sun, the restriction has been removed and your little sister had been saved." As for your martial uncles, you have to find them on your own. As for the one inside my soul refining sect, I'll release him. Goodbye." With that, Wang Lin grabbed the short old man who claimed to be from the celestial realm and then teleported away. He was too lazy to pay attention to the dispute between these two siblings. Wang Lin's figure appeared inside the tower in the soul refining tribe. He casually threw the short old man to the ground and he sat down in the lotus position. His eyes glowed like torches as he touched his bag of holding and 3 rays of sword energy flew out. The tips of the swords released powerful, cold auras and he pressed them on the old man's skin. These 3 swords were Zishu's, Mo Yang's, and Hai Zhu's. After being refined by Wang Lin, the sword energy of the 3 swords merged together. The fusion of the mastery of the 3 swords completed the activation of the 3 swords. This is Sword Saint Ling Qianho's triple talent sword formation. I don't know if you have heard of it. Wang Lin's voice was calm, but when it landed in the short old man's ears, it caused him to tremble. His small eyes quickly turned to look at the 3 treasured swords. Wang Lin slowly said, "After your celestial capture net releases you, if you make any movement, I'll let you know the mysteries of the triple talent sword formation." He found the name of the triple talent sword formation when he soul-searched Hai Zhu's soul. The 12 swords were divided into groups of 3. If all 12 swords were activated, it would become the heaven-slaying 12 sword formation that Sword Saint Ling Qianho was very proud of. "Now tell me what your identity is." With Wang Lin's life experience, he was immediately able to tell how timid this old man was. His voice contained devilish energy as he said, "If you don't talk, I'll use the soul search spell. Then I'll refine your soul into a soul fragment so you can never enter the reincarnation cycle." The short old man's body trembled, but his eyes were still bulged as he said, "I'm a celestial. You still dare to disrespect me?" Not waiting for the old man to finish speaking, Wang Lin frowned and coldly looked at him. He slowly raised his right hand and a ghostly light appeared in his grasp. He no longer bothered with the old man's nonsense. With the soul search spell in hand, he pressed it against the old man's head. The old man let out a scream, but he was helpless, and because his body was tied up by the celestial capture net, he simply couldn't dodge. His eyes were filled with fear as he quickly shouted, "I'll talk! I'll talk!" Wang Lin didn't stop, and just as he was about to press down with his right hand, his expression changed slightly and he stopped his hand. Outside the tower, a passage was suddenly sliced open within the black cloud above the soul refining tribe, and the sound of a blade pierced through the sky. The black blade moved as fast as lightning and closed in on the tower in a flash. Shuligua was inside the black blade and was holding the brush in his hand. He immediately entered the tower, revealed an expression to please, and quickly said, "Master, Little Shu has caught the treasure for you, but I'm dead tired." "Master, you don't know how fast this treasure ran." "Not bad." Wang Lin nodded and reached out with his right hand. When the brush flew into his hand, he immediately felt the celestial spiritual energy cycling inside the brush. There was also a strong pressure contained within the brush. After hearing Wang Lin's praise, Shuligua let out a grin. After his betrayal failed, he had been looking for a chance to gain more merit. This time he finally got a chance. Wang Lin ignored Shuligua and the half-moon blade. He held the brush and slowly closed his eyes. Then he activated the celestial spiritual energy inside his body and slowly entered the brush. At this moment, a golden light appeared on the tip of the brush. The golden light became brighter and brighter as Wang Lin's celestial spiritual energy entered it. In the end, the light lit up the entire tower. From the distance, it looked like the tower was giving off a golden flow. At this moment, all of the tribe members of the soul refining tribe showed their piety by kneeling down and bowing toward the tower. The eyes of the old man caught by the celestial capture net couldn't help but shrink when he saw the dazzling light the brush gave off in Wang Lin's hand. He felt a sour taste in his heart. When he picked up the brush back then, there was also a golden light. However, comparing that golden light to the golden light in front of him now, one was like the sun and the other was just a firefly. Humph, so what if he can make it give off a powerful, golden light? I just don't believe he can comprehend how to use this celestial item without my guidance. It has to be said that back then, if it wasn't for the jade, I wouldn't have figured out how to use the celestial brush. Of course, a lot of it had to do with my own intelligence. As the old man thought of this, there was a glimmer of pride in his eyes. However, the pride in his eyes quickly changed into daze, and this daze quickly turned into shock. He saw Wang Lin suddenly open his eyes and draw a one-stroke symbol with one wave of his hand. This is impossible. Yes, this person is only a bit more intelligent than me, so after he saw me use it, he was able to learn it. Yes, this has to be the case. Just as the short old man was thinking of this, the next scene caused him to scream out loud. Wang Lin's eyes also seemed to contain a hint of golden light at this moment. He waved his hand again, adding another stroke to form a two-stroke symbol. Wang Lin's right hand didn't stop, he made another stroke. At this moment, a three-stroke symbol that glowed like the sun appeared before him. At the moment this symbol was formed, the celestial spiritual energy in Wang Lin's body activated on its own and entered the symbol. In the eyes of Shuligua and the short old man, the three-stroke symbol gave off a feeling of perfection. It was as if there was a heavenly Tao imprinted on the symbol. Waves of golden light spread out from the symbol, leaked out of the tower, and replaced the golden light from the tip of the brush. The golden light surrounded the heavens and earth. The black cloud that was the soul flag immediately melted and retreated, revealing the clear, blue sky. Wang Lin's eyes gave off a golden glow. His hand stopped in the air after drawing the third stroke. His white robe moved without any wind, and his loose, long hair flowed backwards. The aura of a celestial suddenly spread out from his body. He held the celestial brush as if he was a celestial himself. The golden symbol seemed to contain the heavens Tao and a sense of majesty. Shuligua was completely stunned, and the golden light coming from Wang Lin caused his eyes to hurt. The golden light made him feel like he was facing something he couldn't resist. It was as if Wang Lin only needed but a thought to make him completely disappear. Although he had experienced this kind of feeling before, it was never this strong. At this moment, this feeling imprinted deep inside his heart. As for the short old man, he stared dumbfoundedly at Wang Lin. The shock in his eyes was monstrous as he exclaimed, "Celestial! Celestial Emperor!" Wang Lin took a deep breath and pointed at the symbol before him. The symbol immediately dissipated, turned into specks of light, flew out of the tower, and fused with the world. "Now tell me your identity." The golden light in Wang Lin's eyes slowly disappeared. However, his gaze was like a bolt of lightning as it pierced through the short old man's eyes and stared directly at his inner self. Wang Lin had used the heavenly devil sound. His voice contained devilish power as it entered the old man's ears and entangled itself with the old man's origin soul. The reason why Wang Lin didn't use the soul search spell was because even though the old man's mid-stage ascendant cultivation was an empty shelf, his origin soul had a power very different from the celestial guardians. With how cautious Wang Lin was, he wouldn't casually use the soul search spell unless it was the last resort or if he had a full grasp on the situation. The short old man's eyes were hollow as he muttered, "I'm from the Refining Feather Sect, and my name is Huang Yu. I entered this demon spirit land because I was chased and hunted down by my enemies. Later, I didn't dare to leave and decided to stay here. Staying here is better, as long as I'm careful, there will be no danger here." Wang Lin's eyes lit up and he asked, "Where did you get the celestial seed and celestial treasures from?" "The demon spirit land?" The old man said, "When I arrived here back then, I accidentally entered an abandoned cave and obtained them there." "What else did you obtain besides the celestial seed and the celestial brush?" Wang Lin's eyes showed a hint of fanaticism. The old man muttered, "I obtained a total of 2 bags of holding. One of them had no divine sense imprint and contained the celestial capture net and other things, including a jade. The other had a divine sense imprint on it, so I couldn't open it, but it was stolen by someone else." Wang Lin's eyes became serious and he said, "Who stole that bag of holding?" "It was a cultivation couple. Luckily, I split the 2 bags and imprinted my own divine sense on the other one. Otherwise, both would have been stolen." The short old man's eyes became even more hollow, but when talking about this, there was a trace of hatred in his eyes. This was clearly a huge blow to him. This was very natural. Anyone who had just obtained a great treasure only to have it snatched away right after would never forget the feeling of rising up to the sky and immediately falling. After carefully questioning about the appearance of the cultivation couple, Wang Lin asked, "What was recorded on the jade?" The old man slowly said, "It recorded several methods for using several celestial treasures and celestial spells. There was also the method to create celestial guardian puppets. However, there was a restriction on the jade, so I wasn't able to see all of its contents." He was still being locked onto by the golden light in Wang Lin's eyes and the heavenly devil sound, meaning he had no way of lying, so everything he said was the truth. "Where is the jade?" Wang Lin's eyes lit up. The old man said, "Inside my bag of holding." "How long can the celestial capture net trap for?" 3 days. Wang Lin waved his sleeves and a strand of celestial spiritual energy entered the old man, sealing his origin soul. Then Wang Lin closed his eyes and sat down in the lotus position to cultivate. As for the old man, he had passed out. However, the 3-talent sword formation remained just in case. 3 days of time flashed by. On the 3rd day, the celestial capture net that had the old man bundled up immediately released a flash of green light. It left the old man and flew to the side. Then it turned into a green net the size of one's palm. Wang Lin suddenly opened his eyes and reached out with his right hand. The old man's bag of holding immediately flew into his hand. He scanned it with his divine sense and then slightly frowned. He reached out his right hand once more and grabbed the old man. After shaking the old man, more than 10 bags of holding fell from all parts of the old man's body. Wang Lin casually threw the old man to the side. Then the 3-talent sword formation quickly flew toward the old man and completely locked the unconscious old man down. The bags of holding were scanned by Wang Lin one by one. Eventually, his gaze fell on a very ordinary-looking bag of holding. After wiping the old man's divine sense from the bag, his divine sense dove inside. This bag of holding had nothing but jades, all kinds of jades. After scanning the jades inside the bag, Wang Lin's eyes suddenly narrowed and his heart skipped a beat. He moved his right hand and a green jade appeared in his palm. This jade wasn't made of spirit stone or celestial jade but a material that Wang Lin had never seen before. It didn't seem to be wood nor stone, and when he held it in his hand, a warm aura surrounded his body. Wang Lin's divine sense entered the jade, and at this moment his expression changed. His eyes glowed brightly before gradually dimming down. All of his attention was on the contents of the jade, and he was completely shocked. This jade recorded the usage of 3 celestial treasures and a real celestial spell. "Qin Shuang, you just became a Rain Celestial Realm Celestial General, and as your father, this is my gift to you. These 3 celestial treasures were personally made by me. As for the celestial spell, although it is not a high-rank one, it is very interesting. I believe you will like it. The Pen of Immortal Touch is a treasure filled with the power of the sun. Father collected 12 suns and turned them into 12 symbols that can be drawn with the pen. Its power is acceptable. Celestial Capture Net. Although this treasure is pretty average, the soul inside it seems to have gained some intelligence. It is very interesting, so I believe you will like it. As for the 3rd treasure, it is best used with your Rain Celestial Sword. This treasure is called Spirit Sheath. Putting the celestial sword inside it can strengthen the sword spirit within. Father used the origin celestial metal inside the celestial cleansing pool to make it. As for the celestial spell, although it is a low-quality celestial spell and its power is ordinary, it is a very interesting spell. This spell is called the Stop Spell. Father found this on a mysterious planet by accident. Unfortunately, it wasn't complete, but Father was able to restore it after researching the spell. Father guessed that this was only part of a large combination spell. Unfortunately, what I found was incomplete, so I was unable to restore the entire combination spell. The excitement on Wang Lin's face gradually calmed down. The jade was divided into 3 parts. The first part was a detailed description and instructions for 3 celestial treasures. There was no restriction on this part of the jade and it could easily be accessed. As for the other 2 parts, there were restrictions placed on them. When one tried to check them with their divine sense, there would just be chaotic images and words, making them unable to see everything. The second part had the method to create celestial guardians. The short old man was able to learn about the celestial guardians from seeing pieces of the second part. There was also this remark left in the jade: Father placed a bloodline restriction on this jade. Without your bloodline, it is impossible to break the restriction on this jade. However, this jade has existed for far too long, long enough that even with this person's powerful cultivation, it couldn't offset the passage of time. The restriction on the first section was gone, and the restriction on the second section had loosened greatly. Only the restriction on the last section was still completely intact. Out of the 3 celestial treasures, I only see 2. The spirit sheath is not there. These items were given to a woman named Qin Shuang. If her name is Qin, then her father is. Wang Lin's eyes lit up and he whispered, "Celestial Emperor Qin Lin." After carefully looking at the jade in his hand, Wang Lin began to ponder. Wang Lin closed his eyes. According to the tone of this jade, this Qin Shuang was the Rain Celestial Emperor's daughter. She also had a weapon called the Rain Celestial Sword. He suddenly opened his eyes and there was a burst of golden light. Rain Celestial Sword. Rain Celestial Sword. Could there be such a shocking coincidence in this world? Could the female corpse that Senior Ju Yi was so infatuated with be Celestial Emperor Qin Lin's daughter? Wang Lin pondered a bit before slapping his bag of holding. The pagoda Ju Yi gave him flew out. Before it could grow, Wang Lin's right hand made a seal and pointed at the pagoda. The corpse of the woman in white, who was so beautiful that she could make anyone's heart race, slowly flew out. Looking at the female corpse, Wang Lin began to ponder even more. His eyes lit up, then his 2 fingers formed a sword and he waved it. A blade of wind flew out and a red mark immediately appeared on her wrist. However, before blood could even flow out, that mark immediately disappeared and returned to normal. Wang Lin's expression remained the same, but his eyes became even brighter. With a thought, Ling Qianho's sword energy entered his fingers. He immediately waved his hand again and another red mark appeared on the woman's wrist. Although it was still healing rapidly, this time it was obviously slower. A drop of red blood dripped down from the wound on the woman in white's wrist. Wang Lin withdrew Ling Qianho's sword energy and caught the drop of blood. He waved his sleeves and the woman flew back into the pagoda. He then put the pagoda back into his bag of holding. "I only need to test it to see if you are really Qin Shuang." Wang Lin pressed the drop of blood on the jade without any hesitation. When the drop of blood landed on the jade, it immediately turned into red mist. The red mist gradually entered the jade. Then cracking sounds immediately came from the green jade and it lost a layer. A crystal clear green jade with a thin, blood-red line appeared. Wang Lin couldn't be bothered to observe how beautiful this jade was. He scanned it with his divine sense. Then he immediately sucked in a breath of cold air and began to ponder. The seal on the last 2 parts of this jade were opened. She was actually Qin Shuang. Wang Lin sighed. His divine sense returned to the jade to check the contents of the other 2 parts. Time slowly passed. Wang Lin had been immersed inside the jade for an unknown amount of time. The short old man had awakened on the 2nd day after Wang Lin became immersed with the jade. However, the 3-talent sword formation still surrounded him. Bursts of cold energy entered his body through the tips of the swords, making him not dare to move an inch. With his cultivation, he could vaguely see that the mystery of this formation wasn't in the swords themselves but the mysterious force within them. On top of that, there was also Shuligua watching him. Shuligua casually floated around the old man and would occasionally reveal a cold smile. He would hold the black blade and wave it around before the old man. Several days later, Wang Lin's divine sense returned from inside the jade. He opened his eyes and let out a long breath. These celestials are even more cruel than cultivators. The second part of this jade had detailed records of making a puppet called the Celestial Guardian. This method isn't for celestials, it is meant to be used on cultivators. Cultivators were captured and refined. If it was successful, the resulting Celestial Guardian would be extremely powerful. According to the Celestials, a Celestial Guardian wasn't a person, but a treasure. It was split between low, medium, and high quality. In the Jade, it was stated that a low-quality celestial guardian is equal to a peak late-stage ascendant cultivator, which is the limit of the first step. As for medium quality and high quality, I am unable to determine where they are in the second step. As for the third part of the Jade, it is a map. It looks like the topographic map of a cave. Wang Lin's eyes lit up and he looked at the short old man. Wang Lin calmly said, "Hand it over." The short old man's face was filled with bitterness as he said, "You have all my bags of holding, what else do you want?" In his heart he cursed. This fellow named Wang is even worse than that cultivation couple. They only wanted one of my bags of holding, but this fellow named Wang doesn't want to leave me with anything. Wang Lin coldly looked at the old man and slapped his bag of holding. 10 pieces of broken jade flew out. These broken jades were the objects inside the 10 celestial guardians the old man had. After the old man saw the broken jades, his expression changed greatly. Wang Lin closed his right hand and the 10 broken jades fused into one. After that, he reached out and he grabbed the old man. Then his palm hit the old man's forehead and knocked the old man's origin soul out of his body. The moment the old man's origin soul flew out, Wang Lin spat out a mouthful of origin energy and surrounded the old man's origin soul with it. As the old man was refined, the celestial spiritual energy inside his origin soul slowly condensed into a finger-sized broken jade. After retrieving the broken jade, the old man's origin soul was thrown out of the tower and devoured by the black cloud outside, becoming a soul fragment within. As for the old man's body, Wang Lin didn't even look at it as he waved his sleeves and the body turned into dust. One of the reasons for throwing it to the soul flag was that it would be a waste otherwise. After all, it was a late-stage soul transformation origin soul. The other reason was that Wang Lin was interested in the cave the old man had found. However, Wang Lin knew that this was not the time to leave. The most important thing right now was to use the remaining couple of decades to make his cultivation and magical treasures reach a new peak. He needed to be prepared for the 100-year agreement he had with the ancient demon. This was especially true for the 2 new treasures and the low-quality celestial spell he obtained. Thinking about the celestial spell, Wang Lin revealed a hint of excitement. This was a real celestial spell. All of the spells Wang Lin had learned in his life, aside from the celestial slaughter art, were created from imitating low-quality celestial spells. After all, celestial spells were simply too rare. Even people like the All-Seer had great desire for celestial spells, much less someone like Wang Lin. Celestial spells were real spells. These were powerful spells that were several times more powerful than normal spells. The demon spirit land attracted many cultivators and even caused them to be willing to slaughter and bow down to the natives. This was all for a chance to fuse with an ancient demon to learn a celestial spell. In order to obtain a celestial spell in the Heavenly Fate sect, one must hold the position of true disciple for countless years before being granted one. However, the All-Seer won't give the best one but choose an ordinary one. The stop spell. Wang Lin took a deep breath and the chant for this celestial spell appeared in his mind. He slowly closed his eyes and immersed himself inside this celestial spell. Time silently passed, and in the blink of an eye, 20 years went by. The battle between the Heavenly Demon Country and the Fire Demon Country had lasted for a very long time. Both sides became more and more heated up as the war dragged on. The other countries couldn't hold it any longer and finally decided to attack. The ancient demon from Sky Demon Country already considered this problem when he decided to start the war against the Fire Demon Country. As the rest of the countries were ready to make a move, he used his own power to seal Sky Demon City. As for the other cities of the Sky Demon Country, the ancient demon completely gave them up. He only guarded the capital and the Dragon Lake while waiting for the agreement with Wang Lin. He was not afraid of Wang Lin going back on the agreement. If Wang Lin really backed out, he would use his ability to search high and low until he killed Wang Lin. He believed that Wang Lin was not so short-sighted. Under this situation, the Soul Refining Tribe quickly expanded and strengthened itself. During the past several decades, in the battlefields in the Fire Demon Country, there were these mysterious people in black that gradually caught the attention of the two sides. These black-robed people would often appear on battlegrounds to absorb a large amount of soul fragments and take a lot of life with them. At the same time, each of them had killed countless enemies on the battlefield, and they all had outstanding performance. The demon soldiers that grew stronger rapidly in both armies were promoted to replace the dead generals. This video will end here.